Ang kasaysayan ng reforma sa agrikultura sa Pilipinas ay isang kwento ng pakikibaka, pagtibay at mga pangarap para sa katarungan. Mula sa panahon ng pananakop ng Espanya hanggang sa kasalukuyan, ang paghahanap ng karapatan sa lupa ay nagsilbing batayang haligi ng lipunang Pilipino. Sa maikling pagtatalakay na ito, ating tuklasin ang mahahalagang sandali at patuloy na hamon ng reformang agraryo na nagbibigay diin sa kahalagahan nito sa paghubog ng sosyo-ekonomikong tanawin ng bansa.
Ito ang kaligirang pangkasaysayang reformang agraryo sa Pilipinas na ipinapasa ng Group 2 sa Readings in Philippine History. Una naming tatalakayin ay ang pre-Spanish period o ang panahon na hindi pa tayo nasasakop ng mga Kastila. Bago dumating ang mga Kastila sa Pilipinas, ang mga Pilipino ay naninirahan sa mga nayon o barangay na pinamumunuan ng mga datu o kadatuan. Ang mga datu ay binubuo ng maharlika. Pagkatapos ay dumating ang mga maharlika o mga malaya, sinundan ng mga aliping namamahay at aliping mga sagigilid. Gayunpaman, sa kabila ng pagkakaroon ng iba't ibang uri sa estrukturang panlipunan, halos lahat ay may pribilehiyo sa mga bunga ng lupa. Hindi noon uso ang pera, at ang bigas ang nagsisilbing daluyang palitan lamang. Land was commonly owned by the community known as barangay. This is a small unit of government consisting of 30 to 100 families, administered by the chiefs. Nauna nating natalakay o nakilala bilang datu. Everyone in the barangay, regardless of status, had an access on the land and mutually share resources and the fruits of their own. They believe and practice the concept of stewardship, where relationship between man and nature is important. Land cultivation was done commonly by kaingan system or the slash and burn method, wherein land was cleared by the burning the bushes before planting the crops, or either land was plowed and harrowed before planting. Ito ang mga pinatupad noon. Ang mga datu ay namamahagi ng lupain sa mamamayan na may pahintulot ng sangguniang ang mga nakatatanda. Ang mga datu, kanilang pamilya at mga kamag-anak ang nagmamay-ari ng malalaking lupain. Hindi pa komplikado ang kanilang suliranin dahil konti pa lamang ang mga tao at malawak pa ang lupain sa Pilipinas at hindi pa ito lahat nagagamit.
Ngayon, dumako naman tayo sa Spanish period ng agrarian reforms in the Philippines. When the Spaniards came to the Philippines, the concept of encomienda or royal land grants was introduced. This system grants that encomenderos must defend his encomienda from external attack, maintain peace and order within, and support the missionaries. In turn, the encomenderos acquired the right to collect tribute from the Indios or native or Filipinos. The system, however, degenerated into abuse of power by the encomenderos. The tribute soon became land grants to a few powerful landlords, and the natives who once cultivated the lands in freedom were transformed into mere share tenants. Nang dumating ang mga Espanyol dito sa ating bansa, iba't ibang mga batas, patakaran at panukula ang kanilang ipinatupad, na siyang naging dahilan ng pagiging musmos, pagiging alipin at pagiging isang dayuhan ng Pilipino sa kanyang bayan. Ang mga patakaran na ito ay hindi lamang itong encomienda, kundi marami pang iba. Ang encomienda. Isa sa kanilang ipinanukala ay itong encomienda ay isang royal land grants na ibinibigay sa mga encomenderos na siyang may responsibilidad upang panatilihin ang katahimikan at kaayusan ng lupain ito. Kapag ang mga encomenderos ay nagawa ang kanilang mga tungkulin, ay binibigyan sila ng encomienda ng mga kanilang encomendero. Ngunit, ang mga lupang ito ay kinapkap at kinuha mula sa mga Pilipino. Sa kabila pa nito, ang mga encomenderos ay sinasabing may kapangyarihan upang maningil ng buwis na siya namang inabuso ng mga encomenderos. Abusado sa paniningil at nananakit kapag hindi nakapagbayad ang mga Pilipino. Gayunpaman, mataas pa din ang kanilang paniningil ng buwis na siyang nagpahirap sa buhay ng maraming Pilipino. Sumunod ay ang Maura Decree. Ang Maura Decree ay nagsasabi na dapat sa loob ng isang taon ay magkakaroon ng titulo ang mga lupain ng mga Pilipino. Ngunit dahil ang mga Pilipino ay may kakulangan sa pag-aaral o sa edukasyon at hindi nila alam ang mga titulo-titulo na iyan, hindi nila nagawa o di nila nakamit ang naisi ng Maura Decree. Kung kaya't ang mga lupa ay kinamkam at kinuha ng mga Espanyol. Sumunod ay ang unrecognized of local customs. Anong nangyari? Ang paniniwala ng mga Filipino na ang lupa ay para sa lahat at ito ay hindi dapat kinakamkam ng sinuman ay hindi kinilala ng mga Espanyol. Ikinilala nila na ang mga lupain ng mga Filipino ay para sa kanila lamang, para lang daw sa mga Espanyol. Sumunod ay ang establishment of pueblos. Nagkaroon din ng pagdidivide o paghahati-hati sa mga Pilipino. Sa pagtatayo ng mga pueblos, ang mga pueblos ito ay mga towns or village, na kung saan ang mga Pilipino ay nagkaroon ng pagkakaiba-ibang paniniwala at hindi sila nagkaroon ng pagkakaisa. Dito rin nangyari kung saan ang mga lupain ng mga Filipino ay kinuha ng mga Espanyol. Sumunod ay ang mortgage. Nagkaroon din ng mortgage o tinatawag na pagsasanla kung saan kapag ang Pilipino ay nahihirapan, maaari niyang isanla ang kanyang lupa. Ngunit ito ay tumutubo o nagkakaroon ng malaking interes. Dahil sa malaking interes na yan at mababang pasahod ng mga Espanyol sa mga Pilipino, ang nangyari ay nabaon sa utang ang mga ito at hindi nila nakuha pa muli ang kanilang mga lupain. At ang panghuli ang inquilinos. Bagamat mababa ang kinikita ng mga Filipino, bagamat ang mga Filipino ay nahihirapan at nagkakaroon ng sariling pagsisikap upang mabuhay, bagamat ang mga Filipino ay naaabuso ng mga Espanyol, hindi sila tinantanan ng mga Espanyol. Bakit? Sapagkat habang naghihirap ang mga Pilipino ay nagpatupad pa ang mga Espanyol ng mga pagbabayad ng buwis para sa mga praile. Ibig sabihin, talagang pinahirapan nila ang mga kapwa Pilipino, inabuso, sinasiwas ng paghihirap at tinanggalan ng dangal at puri sa kanyang sariling bayan.
The first Philippine Republic, and also referred by historians as the Malolos Republic, was established in Malolos, Bulacan during the Philippine Revolution against the Spanish Empire from 1896 to 1898, and the Spanish-American War between Spain and the United States in 1890. Through the promulgation of the Malolos Constitution on January 22, 1899, succeeding the revolutionary government of the Philippines. It was formally established with Emilio Aguinaldo as president. It maintained governance until April 1, 1901. The First Philippine Republic is sometimes characterized as the first proper constitutional republic in Asia, although there were several Asian republics predating it. Aguinaldo himself had led a number of those governments. However, the Malolos Constitution was duly approved by a partially elected Congress and called for a true representative democracy. The famous line, The yoke has finally broken was used to indicate the freedom of Filipinos from the Spaniards. When the First Philippine Republic was established in 1899, General Emilio Aguinaldo declared in the Malolos Constitution his intention to confiscate large estates, especially the so-called friar lands. However, as the Republic was short-lived, Aguinaldo's plan was never implemented.
Ngayon lumayo naman tayo sa panahon ng Amerikano. Ang panahon ng Amerikano ay nagdala ng maraming pagbabago sa sistema ng lupa sa Pilipinas. Ang ilang mga batas na isabatas noong panahong ito ay naglalayong makontrol at mapagbuti ang kalagayan ng mga magsasaka at mga lupain. Ang unang batas na ipatupad noong American Periods Agrarian Reform ay ang Philippine Bill of 1902. Ito ay nagtakda ng limitasyon sa laki ng lupain na maaaring makuha ng mga pribadong individual at corporation. Binibigyan lamang ng 16 hectares para sa mga pribadong individual at 1,024 hectares naman para sa mga korporasyon. Sumunod dito ay ang Land Registration Act of 1902 or Act No. 496. Ito ay nagbigay ng komprehensibong sistema ng pagrirehistro ng mga titulo ng lupa sa ilalim ng Torrent System. Ano ang Torrent System? Ito ay isa sa mga hakbang na isinagawa ng mga Amerikano bilang bahagi ng kanilang pagsisikap at na maimplementa ang agrarian reform sa Pilipinas. Ito ay naglalayong bigyan ng tiyak at legal na proteksyon ang mga magsasaka at iba pang benepisyaryo ng reformang agraryo sa pag-aari ng lupa. Ang sumunod na batas na ipinatupad noon ay ang Public Land Act of 1903. Ito ay nagpakilala ng homestead system sa Pilipinas. Ano ang homestead system? Ito ay ipinatupad noong panahon ng Amerikano bilang bahagi ng kanilang agrarian reform program. Ito ay naglalayong magbigay ng pagkakataon sa mga magsasaka na magkaroon ng sariling lupa para sa agrikultura. Sa ilalim ng homestead system, ang mga magsasaka ay maaring mag-apply para sa libreng lupa mula sa pamahalaan. Ang mga aplikante ay kailangan patunayan na may kakayahan silang patubuin at palaguin ang lupa para sa agrikultura. Kapag natanggap ang aplikante, ibinibigay sa kanila ang titulo ng lupa at binibigyan ng pananagutan na panatilihin at palaguin ang lupa para sa agrikultura. Ang sumunod na batas na ipinatupad noong American Periods Agrarian Reform ay ang Tenancy Act of 1933 or Act No. 4054 at 4113. Ito ay nagregula sa relasyon ng mga may-ari ng lupa at mangungupahan ng mga lupain ng palay na may 50% na pagbabahagi at mga lupain ng tubo. Ang mga batas na ito ay nagbigay ng mga limitasyon at proteksyon para sa mga magsasaka. Gayunpaman, hindi pa rin ito tuluyang nasolusyonan ang mga problema sa lupain ng Pilipinas.
The American Periods, the third system which the Americans institute for the registration of lands, did not solve the problem completely. Either they were not aware of the law or if they did, they could not pay the survey cost and other fees required in applying for a third title. The American period in the Philippines is a pivotal chapter in the country's history spanning from 1898 when the Philippines was ceded by Spain to the United States after the Spanish-American War to 1946 when the Philippines gained full independence. This era introduced profound modifications in various aspects of the Filipino life. The Americans established a public school systems, promoted English as a medium of instructions, and implemented a new legal and governmental framework modeled after their own. Economic changes were also significant with the introduction of new crops and the expansion of trade and infrastructure. This period played a crucial role in shaping the socio-political and cultural fabric of the Philippines, influenced its trajectory towards becoming the nation it is today.
So, in Commonwealth period, President Manuel L. Quezon espoused the social justice program to arrest the increasing social unrest in Central Luzon. So, here's are the significant legislation enacted during the Commonwealth period. First is 1935 Constitution, which is the promotion of social justice to ensure the well-being and economic security of all people should be the concern of the state. Second is Commonwealth Act number 178, an amendment to Rice Tenancy Act number 4045 in November 13, 1936, provided for certain controls in the landlord-tenant relationships. The second is NARIC, or the third is NARIC, or National Rice and Corn Corporation, 1936, established the price of rice and corn, thereby helped the poor tenants as well as the consumers. So the next one is Commonwealth Act number 461 in 1937 specified reason for the dismissal of tenants and only with the approval of Tenancy Division of the Department of Justice. So, hindi basta-basta mapapaalis ng landlord yung tenants nang walang investigation or approval na nanggagaling mula sa Tenancy Division of the Department of Justice. Rural Program Administration created on March 2, 1939 provided the purchase and lease of haciendas and their sale and lease of the tenants. Then lastly is Commonwealth Act number 441 enacted on June 3, 1939 created the National Settlement Administration with a capital stock of 20 million pesos. So, in Commonwealth period, dito nagsimula na tugunan yung mga issues sa reforma sa lupa sa Pilipinas. So, ano nga ba yung mga issue or problema sa bansa tungkol sa reforma sa lupa? So, isa na rito yung unequal land ownership. Onti lang yung mga onti lang yung mga Pilipino na may-ari ng lupa, like tapos mas marami yung mga farmers na walang lupa, so ganon. And sharecropping, ito yung hinahayaan ng mga landlord yung tenants nila na gamitin yung lupa nila kapalit ng bunga nila, like hinayaan ng landlord na gawing palayan yung lupa niya. So, ang kapalit nun is may hati siya, like, bibigyan siya ng ani. So,
the Japanese occupation of the Philippines from 1942 to 1945 was a period of great upheaval. The existing economic and social order was disrupted, and the agricultural sector was no exception. The Japanese implemented an agrarian reform program with the goal of increasing food production for their war effort. However, this program was riddled with economic issues that had a negative impact on both Filipino farmers and the overall economy. The Japanese occupation was primarily motivated by securing resources for the ongoing war effort in the Pacific. The Philippines, a major rice producer in the region, was seen as a vital source of food for the Japanese military. The agrarian reform program was designed to increase rice production to meet these wartime demands. Additionally, the Japanese sought to control food supplies as a means of controlling the Filipino population and suppressing any potential resistance movement. Finally, the program aimed to promote the cultivation of crops critical to the war effort, such as cotton for their war uniforms. The Japanese agrarian reform program had several negative economic consequences. Firstly, the program disrupted traditional land tenure systems, often leading to confusion and conflict over land ownership. Secondly, the Japanese imposed quotas on farmers, forcing them to produce a certain amount of rice or other crops. This system often disregarded local farming practices and resulted in unrealistic production targets. Furthermore, the program did little to provide support and resource to Filipino farmers. Farmers lacked access to essential tools, fertilizers, and other inputs needed for successful cultivation. Finally, the wartime economy was plagued by inflation and shortage of essential goods. This made it difficult for farmers to purchase the supplies they needed to maintain production levels. After this, the harsh condition imposed by the Japanese occupation led to the rise of the Hukbalahap, stand as Hukbong Bayan Laban sa Hapon, a communist-led guerrilla movement. The Hukbalahap fought against Japanese rule and advocated for land reform. The landlords who supported the Japanese lost their lands to peasants, while those who supported the Huks earned fixed rentals in favor of the tenants. Unfortunately, the end of war also signaled the end of gains acquired by the peasants. However, with the end of World War II, the Hukbalahap faced renewed conflict with the Philippines government, ultimately leading to a long-running urgency. The Japanese agrarian reform program stands as prime example of a poorly conceived and poorly implemented policy with disastrous consequences. The program failed to achieve its objective of increasing rice production, and instead, it worsened existing economic inequalities and contributed to widespread social unrest. The experience of the Japanese occupation highlights the importance of well-designed and inclusive agrarian reform programs that prioritize the needs and well-being of the farmers.
Greetings, Ma'am Vera. I am Paul Gerard Arias, first year taking a Bachelor of Science, major in Radiologic Technology. And today I'm going to talk to you about the agrarian reform which marked the era of the Philippine Republic, or the New Republic. After the establishment of the Philippine independence in 1946, the problem of the land tenure remained. This became worse in certain areas, thus the Congress of the Philippines revised the Tenancy Law. One of the key of the legislative responses was the Agricultural Tenancy Act of the Philippines, or the Republic Act number 1199, enacted on August 30, 1954. This was constituted by the late President Ramon Magsaysay to govern the relationship between the landholders and tenants of the agricultural land, including both leaseholds and shared tenancy. It was designated to establish the agricultural tenancy relationship based on social justice, providing protection to the rights of the both tenants and landholders, ensuring an equitable division of the produce and incentivizing more efficient agricultural production. The Act defined agricultural tenancy and classified it into leasehold tenancy and shared tenancy. Shared tenancy existed when both parties agreed on a point undertaking for agricultural production, which one party furnishing the land and the other providing labor. Leaseholder tenancy, on the other hand, involved a tenant cultivating the land of fixed amount in money or produce. The law also aimed to encourage tenant farmers to participate in develop peaceful, vigorous, and democratic rural communities over time. Further amendments and law have been introduced to continue addressing the complex issue of land reform and to protect the welfare of the tenant farmers in the Philippines.